I'm going to show you a Gerbi choke. If you remember, a few years ago, Gerbi won the World Championship with this choke. What she did was, against turtle position, she pulled out part of her gi. This part or this part doesn't really matter. She pushed her hand through here, fed herself the lapel into her hand, and then this leg went over the head, set back, other leg over, and then she just extended backwards. Very strong choke. After that, a lot of people started practicing that, and then the IJF decided that that's illegal, which is very sad. But luckily, there are variations of that choke that are still legal that you can do, and that are also very strong. And that's what I'm going to show you today. The first one, that's mine. With the hand that is closer to his hip, I go under his arm and grab the lapel here. It's easier when you get it higher up, but it also works down here. It's just better if you go higher. You don't. Second hand, one closer to the head. I can push the lapel up here a little bit. That makes it easier to grab into the back of his neck. Now, with this grip, I do exactly the same thing that Gerbi did. This leg goes over the head. I sit down. The other leg, it can go over. Personally, I prefer to push it against his hip or to feed it in. Doesn't really matter. What matters is I'm over his head. I push my knee towards his hip so that he can slip his head out. I'm not straight to the side. I'm a little bit off, like 30, 45 degrees towards his head. And now I just lay back. So that's important. I don't. When I'm on that side, I'm going to do it in a second. I'm not falling down straight back. I want to go off at an angle. So from here, I go here. I'm off at an angle. I can get my leg over, can put it here against his hip, or I can hook in. And then I pull back. This is important because if I don't use this leg, he can just stand up and get out, or he can roll over. So you use this leg to control your opponent's movement over his hip or into his neck. Another thing you can do with your front leg, you can try to hook it into this arm. That makes it a little bit stronger. So if I'm going here, sit down, depending on how he moves, I either use my heel to pull him in his arm. That gives him less stability and makes it harder for him to defend. If he gets his arm out, usually to post on the mat, I can hook in my foot and push that away and then lay back. So depending on how you get him, you either hook in the elbow and push his arms in to make him unstable. If he posts out, hook your foot into his elbow and push it up so again he becomes unstable. That's variation number one. Variation number two actually works without the gi. What I do is, again, start from the side. Again, my arm that is closer to his hip starts off. This time I'm not trying to grab anything, and instead I try to go through as far as possible so that my hand becomes visible here. So I put my ear on his back, look to the back of his head, and then push my arm through until my hand comes through here. Now I grab my own hand. Here. Important, the elbow goes back against his shoulder, again so that he can't slip out his head. If I'm up to the front here, he can pull out his head. I don't want that. So back here. Now I come to the front. My back leg comes up, and then I can stand up, put my hand and my foot over his head, and now I have exactly the same thing. I can hook here to pull his arm in, can control him here with my other foot, and just lay back. easiest if I get my hand far through. So here, the further I can get my hand through, the easier the choke gets. It does work when I'm here. So if you can't get the hand all the way through, doesn't matter, as long as you can connect your hands, you can get the choke. So I can also choke him from here. It's just easier and stronger if you get your hand all the way through. If you practice it, always go for, well, the ideal situation, and that is the hand all the way through. Here. And then you just control, and let go. So there you have two legal variations of the Gerbi choke. Have fun with that. And the first competition example. This one is from me at a Newaza tournament. I'm the one on top. And as you can see here, I'm forcing my opponent into the turtle position with kind of a double underpass. And now from this position here, my left hand goes behind the arm on the other side, takes a hold of the lapel, and my other hand goes into the neck, or the side of the neck. Because my left hand can't go up as far here as I would like to, I go down a little bit further with my right hand, and then I pull his gi into the right position. Here you can see he is blocking my leg over here. So he's stopping me from going all the way where I would want to with his leg. His hand here is in the way. So what I do instead is, now that I have the grip and I have the control, I just roll him over once. And here you can see him losing the grip on my leg. Now my leg is free and I can move easier. Here you can see the grip I have on his lapel. As you can see, it's rather far down, but still it's going to work. So now he is grabbing this leg. Still a little bit annoying because I want this to control him, but he has lost control of my right leg, and this is the one that I need in the back of his head for the choke, so that's fine with me. I stand up, I go into him. Now I feel him, or I felt him starting to roll over again. So I used my left leg to swing it over his hip. As I said, I usually prefer to have it against his, or to hook it into his upper thigh. But you have to adapt a little bit on how your opponent is moving. And if he's trying to roll, then going over the hip is a little bit stronger, I think. And from here on, I just choke. So one more time. First of all, I force him into the turtle position. I place my arms or my hands on the gi. He is blocking my leg that I want to go over his head. So the first thing I do is I roll him over, just move him, force him to react. He reacts by letting go of my leg. And now it's free to choke him. And that's that. And here we have the second tournament example, this time from Amadine Bouchard in blue. And she goes for the second variation, where she doesn't use the gi. This is the more common variation in high-level judo at the moment. And she uses the variation where she doesn't put her hand all the way through towards the neck, but instead just connects her hands beneath her opponent's chest. And I will tell you why in a second. But first of all, she gets her opponent to the ground and just goes in and tries to connect her hands. All the while, you can see she's above her opponent, pushing down, making sure she can stand up, and she keeps control. Now her hands are connected. Next step is this foot goes over the head. And as you can see, she just stays here. She keeps control, makes sure she's strong and stable in this position, and only then the second foot goes in. Now here she's in control. Now she puts the second foot down, and the foot is on the mat behind here, and she sits down. Only after she's sitting, here you can see the foot, now it goes over the hip to control it, and she starts to choke. Now, always a good idea, if your choke doesn't work right away, just roll your opponent, get some movement in there,
And there's the choke. Now, why is she going for that variation and not for the one that I consider to be stronger, where the hand goes all the way through and you connect behind your opponent's neck? Well, the simple answer is speed. While the variation that I prefer is, I'm quite certain that it's stronger. It feels stronger, it's easier to choke. It's a little bit slower and it's a little bit easier for your opponent to defend. And you have to be at the side. Bouchard here, she fell down in front of her opponent. If she wants to do the variation that I prefer, she would have to walk around her opponent first to get to the side, and then she could push her hand through. That takes time. Simply connecting her hands from this position where she is, just shooting the right hand around here, and now it's connected. This is faster. And that's a trade-off you always have to think about. Sometimes it's better to invest more time to get the stronger technique, but quite often it's better to go for a little bit less perfect technique that is faster, because your opponent has less time to react, less time to defend. So yeah, this can be better. She just keeps the grip, foot over, keep control. When you have the control, take the second foot, and then control your opponent. If the choke doesn't work right away, get some movement in there, roll her over, and sooner or later the choke will come, and there it is. So yeah, it's a very nice variation of the Gerbi choke. Have fun trying that out.